Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be painting up this cool Land Raider model. This is for a friend of mine who I'm handing this to his army basically. I found some 3D prints I did. I'll have the links down below if you're interested in them. Basically the doors with the DA kind of sword symbol, and then there's this cool cover, this gothic cover that go over the tracks in the front. Pretty cool, but yeah, we'll work our way through this tank and do some cool kind of molten chain gun effect on the front as well. Starting off, this model was primed in black. A quick tip that I kind of do here that I didn't do before, but I could have. Basically what I do is I take Caliban green, which is our great Dark Angels color, and I mix it in with some black primer. Now, I could have just taken this paint and put this right onto the plastic, but I wasn't thinking when I was doing this. I was kind of tired, but basically what I'm doing is I'm putting a very dark green green mixed with black as my first base coat on the model. I'm covering the entire model in this. Now here comes another pretty much efficiency mistake by my part. Normally, what you might want to do is do this when I'm basically covering these two areas in beige. You want to do this first, block them in, and then paint everything else green. Again, I was kind of tired when I was doing this, so I wasn't thinking straight. But anyway, this is what I'm doing. So I'm taking my airbrush with some beige, and I'm shooting these, I don't know what you would even call them, but these parts of the tank that kind of go into the armor plates, and I'm painting these in a beige. Now there's definitely overspray, so I'll have to fix this, but it is what it is, showing you a mistake that I make sometimes. Before I mask everything up, I'm just going to take some burnt ember ink and just give myself a little bit of weathering on the bottom here. I got the airbrush out, so I might as well. And shortly after this, I'm going to be using Vallejo putty mask to mask up this part that I painted. Then I'll come back with my dark green, which is again Caliban green, mixed in with some black primer, and I'm just going to cover up all the overspray quickly and just match it back to the base that I was doing. Again, could have been a little more efficient about this, could have been a lot more efficient about this whole model, but it happens. Masking is fantastic if you don't really know much about it. You can use it in so many different ways, but fixing your silly mistakes is definitely one of them. Alright, now onto the real painting. So I have some Caliban green here through the airbrush. What I'm going to be doing is highlighting armor panels in kind of a normal way I do tanks. This one's a little different. I'm actually focusing this Caliban green onto some of the edges. I want to try to get a gradient transition from an edge highlight I'll be doing later with a brush with the airbrush. So it should be smooth as well as a nice tight highlight that I'm going to be doing later, like a classic line highlight on the edge of a panel. So, but I'm also doing this in the middle of the panels. I'm kind of focusing this in the middle of each panel where I can. And, again, it's kind of hard to see because there's not a huge color difference between the base and this color, but you'll see later. Once I get the lights on, it's a little easier to see. Next, I'm on to a kind of a highlight mix here. I have Caliban green mixed in with lime green. Lime green is going to be my edge highlight color. What I'm doing here is I'm going back to those big edges, and I'm kind of trying to do a subtle transition on the edge. It's subtle and it's light, but it's going to help us transition the harsh edge highlight later and kind of make a nice smooth gradient. It's not necessary, but I think it's nice. I'm just working my way slowly around the model, getting all the edges I need to get. Next here, I'm just going to base coat all the rest of the model. So basically I do a lot of black cutting in first, and then I'm going to come in with my metallics of a dark exhaust manifold from Vallejo metallic range. I'm going to hit all my metallics with that, and I'll be using bronze from Pro Acryl to hit any bronze or quote-unquote gold details there'll be. I'm also going to do some of the purity seals and some other little bits and bobs in copper. Now that we have the model pretty much fully base coated here, I'm just going to do a little more weathering. I'm coming back on the airbrush with burnt umber ink through the airbrush. I'm just going to apply a bottom of the tank weathering, very light at this point. We're going to do more later, but this is just setting some of the weathering towards the bottom of the model. Just, years of kicking up dust and sticking to the model, and no admech around to clean it off. Next, we're going for wash. His army looks pretty weathered, so I do start out here kind of being a little easy with my wash, but I sort of realize that I'm probably gonna just do an overall. So you can call this a unifying wash. I basically just start sloshing a grimdark kind of black brown thin down oil wash all over the model, getting everything colored and tinted. We are going to take a lot of this off. Sometimes, depending on how much weathering I want, I'll leave it pooled or I'll leave it pretty heavy on there, but as you see, we're just kind of going hard with the makeup sponge and taking off a lot of it. So really all we're leaving left is the recess oil and like a light tinting on purity seals and some of the lighter parts of the model. Alright, so the model is fully dried now, and it has one coat of matte varnish all over the model. First thing I'm going to do here is just color in my lenses. So I'm going to do a mix of green and red lenses. For red, we're using, starting off with Mephiston red. Green will be intermediate green, and then both colors will move up to Evil Sun Scarlet for red as a lens highlight, and then I'll move up to lime green and neon green for the green lenses. Pretty simple here. I'm just basically getting color on them and doing a light highlight kind of glaze or even dot in a corner of the lens to make it look like it's shining. My first step in highlighting my edges of the tank is I'm actually going to do a dry brushing of lime green. This is a very general way to do highlights on a model like this. It's easy, but we're going to come in with the brush and do more fine ones. I'm just trying to hit rivets really right now, but I'm also hitting the edges too to set myself up for the next step, and I know where I need to put those highlights. But when you do a dry brush like this, you can get the lines on the edges the more, as much as you want. I think a straight brush highlight though can add a really nice defined line though at the end. This is great for rivets though. If you're painting up like Imperial Guard, we have a ton of rivets. You need a dry brush. It just saves you so much time and it gives a great look. Now we're here with a regular brush, lime green right on the brush. We're doing straight edge highlighting on all the sharp edges, really defining that edge highlight and setting the final part of this transition we've been working on. And I think it looks fantastic, especially after this model kind of got tinted with the oil. It really just makes it pop, gives it a really clean look, and it doesn't take too long. Once you get the hang of it, using the side of the brush and the side of the tip, you just kind of go around. I use my finger here and there if I need to. If I put a little too much paint down, you can always just wipe it away, come back. It's not too bad. Now again, not thinking very much, I forgot to put decals down before I did the wash step, so I'm doing that now. My decal process is simple. Basically what I do is I put down a little layer of gloss varnish from Liquitex, put down the decal, and then finish it with more gloss varnish. And it works great. It's like a little sandwich. And it really gives a nice effect. It definitely rounds out the corners. You can use microset and microseal. To be honest, I didn't have them when I was doing this. I use them a lot, but I use this as well. It just kind of depends. But the best part about this, it kind of rounds out the edge of the decal. And then you just push and pray, and then let it dry, and you're good to go. After I finish these, I just whip up a quick wash. I actually even use acrylic washes just to give some weathering on these to try to blend it into the rest of the model. All right, let's move on to the chain gun here. Basically what I'm going to do is cover the ends of the chain gun with white Liquitex ink. This is my base coat for everything coming forward. This is a molten effect. We don't really have to go crazy with our halos or overspray. Next, I'm going to cover all of the white parts with fluorescent yellow ink. This is to set the base. This is really just for the next layer, but this adds the heat to our next color, which is fluorescent orange ink. One pass is pretty good. You don't have to go for two. When we move on to the orange ink here, though, we're going to need probably 3 or 4 coats. These inks are pretty translucent, and when you start layering them on top of each other, you do need a few coats. So I'm just going to work myself slowly around here, get good coverage, wait, let it dry, come back, and get more. Next, we're going to move on to fluorescent red ink. We're going to focus towards the back of this middle heat barrel, moving to hitting some of the black as well. We're looking to just get a smooth transition between the orange and the red. Finally, we'll be using regular red ink to kind of kill that fluorescent on the back end, but really move the transition over into the black barrel or whatever it is. I think it's a dark metallic, to be honest. Next, I'm going to do a airbrushing step, a dry brush of burnt red to transition into the red ink I already had, and then finally we're using black to transition the burnt red into the dark barrels. So again, this is a dark metallic, like an exhaust manifold that's been oiled down. So we're gonna need to also hit these black parts with a little bit of lead belcher to be like, hey, this is a metallic barrel that is being heated up, not just like a metallic that goes to black, then that goes to heat up. So the black is just to really reset everything and then reapply the metallics on top. Finally, we're just going to cover the tips of the muzzle barrels with a little white, move into a light orange, icy yellow mix. We're just trying to get some heat at the very tips, showing that these muzzles are hot. This is before I got my liquid pigment in for my fluorescent liquid pigment in. I would normally use that. Now I'm using that for everything. It's fantastic, but this works too. This is just more of an acrylic normal step to get that heat effect. And there you have it. Pretty relatively simple way to do a land raider of any way, any kind of land raider. This was cool with DA having the extra little 3D printed bits for a little extra flavor, and never hurts to have a teeny bit of OSL on there to bump up the coolness of the model, make it pop off the table. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, share, comment, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.